I've been. Dreams are seeds we plant, my friend. Dusty boots, but a heart of gold. Your story's waiting to be told. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small but shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Cowbell ring and feel the beat. Hustle hard, don't take a seat. Every step you're blazing trails. Inventive journey never fails. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small but shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small but shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small but shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Your time is now, your stars align. Your time is now, your stars align.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of the Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. If you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Scott Duffy. And Scott started his journey. He grew up in LA. In high school, sold food at a hot dog stand before going off to college in the University of San Diego. As a freshman, worked as for a franchisor doing painting and worked 14 people that worked for him. Then got in a bad car accident and had to drop out of high school. Went back to school and got an internship with Tony Robbins. And then after that, worked for a startup, and then that business got acquired and shifted over. Started a business that the market crashed and kind of lost everything, and shifted to where he's the business that he's focused on and running today. So, with that much as a quick introduction, welcome on the podcast, Scott.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Devin. Yeah, it's been a
Absolutely.
journey. It's been a journey, and I know that that's what kind of this program is, this podcast is all about. So yeah, like you said, it's kind of funny. I actually I was really fortunate because my dad, my father, really wanted to instill a sense of like a strong work ethic in me from the time I was young. And really my first job was when I played Little League baseball. My dad was friends with the person who had the little stand that was at the Little League field. And he got that guy to hire me on the weekends when I had games. And so what I would do is I would come before my games, I would stay after my games, and I would work in this little hot dog stand, and I would just trade my time for food, basically. But it was just like this really incredible opportunity at a young age, I think, to start and get responsibility and to take orders, to learn how to exchange money and things like that. And as I grew up and grew older, I grew I kind of grew older with that guy who ran that hot dog cart. He had a big catering company and hired me. So I was in high school. I was doing high school catering. I was doing catering and then he got this big break in Los Angeles. We have in an area called Century City. We have a mall, the Century City Mall. And back then there was no food at the mall. And for the first time, they invited people to apply to sell food. And so what he did is he actually had a cart and was able to get a cart placed inside of Century City as one of the first food vending things. And we sold knishes. And so my first kind of like real paying job was selling knishes off of a food cart at the Century City Mall, like back in the day. I didn't even know what a knish was when I got started, but that's kind of how like all of that began. When I graduated from high school, I went to the University of San Diego, and I got some really great advice. Guy who grew up in SoCal, went to school in San Diego. I got some really great advice from a mentor right before I went to college. It's actually a family member who said this to me. They said, on your first day at college, go to the head of the college counseling or the career counseling department and just get to know the people who run it. Get to know the person who's in charge. Introduce yourself, build a relationship, and let them know that when that first year of college is over, you want to go that following summer and work in an internship. And if you build a strong enough relationship with them, maybe they'll look out for you and maybe you'll get like something really cool, something really special. And what was interesting is I did just that. And then one day, about 3 months into my freshman year, I got a call. And it was the head of the career counseling department. And he's like, Scott, he's like, I've got something for you. He's like, you got to come down here right now. He's like, you're going to be so excited. So I got in my car and I went to school and I went and I sat down with him. Now I'm thinking to myself, because back then, back in the day, if you could get an internship with like Microsoft or Xerox or IBM, like those are the big kahunas, like those were the things that we all worked for. So I'm thinking that it must be one of these three. And when I sat down, I asked him, I said, so what is it? He said this, AAA student painters. And I was like, what? And he said, yeah. I said, like student painters? He's like, no, AAA student painters. And I said, wait, I don't understand. Like, how did that happen? And what he said to me, I'll never forget. He said, look, I've only known you for a couple months now, but one thing I can tell already is you're an entrepreneur through and through. And he said, and what this company is going to do is it's going to teach you how to run a business. You're going to learn how to write a plan. You're going to learn how to build a team. You're going to learn how to control inventory, how to produce a product. You're going to learn all about billing and collections and all those different types of things. And he said, I really think this is the right path. So I ended up, my first kind of, I would say, entrepreneurial venture was in college as a branch manager for AAA student painters. And over that summer following my freshman year, I think I had like, 14, 15 also college kids that worked for me. And we painted houses down in San Diego. And so that's really kind of where I got my entrepreneurial start. And by the way, I loved college. So I stopped working after that summer for student painters. I loved school. I did the fraternity thing. I played sports. I played rugby. I loved college. And I would say I probably was having the time of my life to this day until everything really changed for me. And it happened in a heartbeat. So what happened was when I went to school down in San Diego, there was this tradition at our school where after our midterm exams in our fall and our spring semester, everyone would get in their cars and we'd head 9 hours south to San Felipe, Mexico. And there'd be like this big party, this big celebration with all these college kids. And it was a blast. And I remember in my junior year, first semester of my junior year, I finished my exams early and I decided to go down with a group of people early, help set up and that whole thing. And we were, I understand, about 90 miles south of the border. in Mexico. And for people who've been down to like Baja, Mexico, um, you may kind of have experienced kind of what I'm going to share is that you'll go down these federal highways, and at least back in the day, and you'd have one lane in each direction, and then you'd have desert as far as you could see. And we were driving kind of down this road, and we were going fast. I understand we're going about 90 miles an hour. And there was a car that was on the side of the road and didn't try to jump on and didn't see us, and we didn't see him. And we hit that guy dead on, going, I'm told 90 miles an hour. And I got to tell you, it was like the worst day of my life. And you know, it was, yeah, it was terrible. It took 9 hours for us to be able to get treated. Basically, the car that we were in, we were left there. People stole everything out of the car, and left us there. And fortunately, we were able to eventually get help and get back to the United States and get treated. Um, I was left with 2 brain hemorrhages. I had to drop out of school. And, you know, I would say again, looking back, it was probably the worst day of my life. And the question that I have though for people is this, is that like, how many times have you been going down a road in your life, maybe in your business, and maybe you're doing everything right? Like maybe in business, you had like the perfect idea, and you wrote the perfect plan, and you hired the perfect team, and you executed flawlessly. And then something from outside came and it just knocked you off course. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe it was the economy. Maybe it was an illness. And everything that you had done up to that point, you kind of had to throw out and you had to start over. Well, that's kind of like what happened to me. And so I dropped out of school at the time. And but the cool thing was I developed a habit. My roommate in college had a father that was really into motivational books on tape. And one day he came in and he said, "Hey, Scott, my dad thinks you should listen to this." And it was a motivational book on tape, because all I did was lay in bed basically all day, every day. I remember watching TV made me sick, reading made me sick, listening to everything made me sick. And so what I did is I just lay there and I would listen to these motivational books all day and night on repeat over and over again. And it was people back in the day like Dennis Waitley, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, kind of like some of the iconic people from that particular field. And as I started to get better, I decided, look, I want to take what I learned, and I want to go and I want to intern. I want to go back to college and I want to intern for any one of these people. And back then, San Diego was like the Silicon Valley for the speaking industry. They all lived there. And so the first person I applied to intern for was Tony Robbins. And Tony Robbins, his infomercial, which was one of the first big ones, had just hit the air. I was 20 years old. He was 30 years old. So we were both really young. And instead of offering me an internship, I was offered a job. And so I ended up leaving college to go work for Tony. And what I did is he would send me in a team of 5 to 7 people all over North America. So we would go to a city like we would go to Boston or Toronto. We go to Houston, LA, Seattle, all these different places. And our job was to be like an advanced team. What we would do is we would go into companies and we deliver a part of his training program. And then our goal was to get people to buy tickets to come and see him live. That's what we did. Or we tried to sell him going in and consulting with the company. Now, I kind of look back at that time because a lot of people ask me, like, what did you learn the most working for, Tony Robbins? What was it like back then? Well, all I can say is this. All I can say is, our lives are a direct reflection of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. And the easiest way to I'm a techie guy. The easiest way to kind of grok this is simple. If I were to ask you to write down a list, just make a list of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Write down their names. And next to each name, write down what it is that they learn. Or I'm sorry, what it is that they earn. 5 people, what each one you believe they earn, add it all up and divide by 5. That is exactly what you make. And the thing is, you can apply that to virtually any area of your life. So when I look at kind of my time with Tony Robbins and the people that we are around, where I was the influence the most was with mindset. Because the people that he spent his time around, like his tribe that came to his stuff, had this incredible sense of possibility. And it didn't matter what had happened to them in life. They had learned how to take those things and repackage them in their minds in a way that helped them to move forward. And so, I'd say that, that was the first thing that I learned and took away. I think the second thing that I learned is this. The main program, like people don't even realize this today, but the main thing that Tony sold back then was a sales training course. So I was out there teaching parts of the power to influence. So I kind of started like as a sales trainer, I guess, when you think about it. And what I learned in that experience was the 2 most important questions that all of us should be asking are these. And by the way, I think just in terms of my journey, this lesson may have been one of the top 3 most important lessons I ever learned. The first is this: what's most important to you about blank? Whether it's asking our kids or asking the people we come home to, or asking our employees or asking our customers, what's most important to you about blank? The second question, and this is the gold because this is what nobody asks, is, well, then what has to happen? How do you know that thing's being met? Like, what does it mean to you? So I'll give you an example. During COVID, so I'm in the gym all the time, 5 days a week. During COVID, gym shut down. And gosh, what am I going to do? Well, a friend came over and he said, hey, I'm going to build an app for people like us that like to go to the gym. He said, what's most important to you? And I said, wow, that it'd be easy to use. And he said, awesome. I'm going to go make it and you're going to buy it. I said, okay, cool. So a month later, he came back and he had made this really, I guess, cool app. And he said, hey, I want you to test it and be the first. Will you buy this app? Will you subscribe? And I said, absolutely not. He said, why not? And he said, because I asked you you asked me what was most important. And I said, easy to use. I said, but look, here's the thing. I use an iPhone. This is built for an Android. I see easy to use can mean a million different things to a million different people. So what's important is to find out what my definition is of easy to use. It's got to work on an iPhone. I don't want to pay this big subscription fee. I want to try it once. And I want to try it for 30 days. And I had my list. And that is our buyer blueprint. And if you can get good at understanding what a person's buyer blueprint is by asking, what's most important to you and what has to happen? How do you know you're getting those things, what you want? All you have to do is sell to that. And so working for Tony Robbins and teaching that, I really learned that and internalized that, which I think is one of the things that's probably helped me more than just about any business lesson I've learned my whole life in my journey. So started kind of with painting, went to work for Tony. And then I kind of dropped out of that business. I was a young guy. I was like 23 years old, I think, 24. I didn't know what to do. I spent some time working at a bar down in Santa Monica. Was doing different things. And one day a friend called me. It was actually my college roommate, of all things. My college roommate calls me and he says, hey, Duff, he's like, what are you doing these days? And I said, nothing. And he goes, well, okay, cool. We're going to start an internet company. And I said, what's an internet company? And he said, what does it matter? You're not doing anything. It's an internet company. We're going to start it. Now, here's the thing. He said, so the internet first became commercial in December of 1994. And what that means is Mark Andreessen launched for the first time a web browser. So think about like the first version of Chrome or the first version of Safari. So the first way that all of us could actually interact with the internet and see pictures and text and things like that, make it easy. So that month we started this internet company, went to work with this internet company. And here's the thing. It was a total disaster. right? We were early. Nobody knew what it was we were talking about. And I had no idea what I was doing and all that stuff. But what it did in those early days is it got me to see some really cool things. It got me to see what was happening over at Stanford with like Yahoo. It got me to see what was happening with Alta Vista at Carnegie Mellon. It got me to see these really cool, really early versions of how people were thinking of using this technology. And so I'm like, I got to get to the Bay Area because here's the thing in life. In life, if there's anything I've learned, it's this. It's that, we got to position ourselves where the action is. Like if you want to build a movie studio, you're not going to do that in Omaha, Nebraska. You're going to come to Los Angeles, or you're going to go to Austin or Atlanta. You're not going to do it in the middle of the country. And so I'm like, I got to get to the Bay Area. And what I did is I kind of went on tour. And what I mean by that is I'm living in LA. I'm back in LA. I'm living with my sister. We're sharing rent in an apartment. And I would go back and forth on days that I wasn't working. And I would just drive up to San Francisco and I do the couch tour. I just stay on my friends' couches and I would just try and find stuff. The problem was there just weren't many internet companies at that time. But I worked at it for about 6 months. And eventually I kind of ran out of couches. I think my buddies were tired of me just kind of hanging out. And I ran out of cash. And I remember what to me felt like at that point, the lowest day of my life. I didn't have a place to go. I remember it was freaking pouring rain in the Bay Area. I was sleeping in a dirt lot in my car outside of a company called Oracle. And I just had no idea what to do. And I had very little cash on me. And so what I did is, I'm sleeping there. I slept there overnight and I got a call from a family member. And this is really important for anybody that has a dream or that wants to change their circumstance from where they are now to something different. I got a call from a family member and the family member said, Scott, we don't get it. We don't understand what it is that you're doing. You could have a job down here. Our family has been in a certain industry for over 50 years. Like, we've got a plan for you. You could come do that. Like, we are. And so at some point or many points in your life, you're going to have to make a decision. And that decision is going to take you in one of two very different directions. And so the decision I had to make was, am I going to go home now? Or is I'm going to keep trying to find a way to break into this industry? And I turned on my car and I went home. But here's what I did. What I did is I went into my room. I drove overnight, got there in the morning. I grabbed everything that I had in my room. I put it in my car and I went to a pawn shop in Santa Monica, California. And I took everything that I had that they would buy and I sold it. I had a Rolex watch that I bought when I worked for Tony Robbins. I had a basketball. I actually sold a basketball to a pawn shop. I had everything that I had. The only thing they wouldn't take was my file cabinet. I had the high school ring from my high school. I had a bracelet that my girlfriend in high school gave me. Like all this, and I sold it. And I went back to my house where I lived with my sister. I owed back rent. And I said, here's everything that I owe. And the same day I drove up to San Francisco. And I had $200. And so the question when you get back there is, what are you going to do with $200? And the answer for me was simple. You buy pizza. You buy pizza. And why do I say that? Because look, it's really freaking competitive out there today. You gotta be different. When everybody is writing a resume and sending it with AI, and it's being written by like, what are you going to do that's different, that's human, that's going to stand out? And so what I did is this. What I did is I went to a pizza place and I said, look, I think it was a Domino's. And I said to the manager, I said, look, here's the thing. When you have pizzas left at the end of a shift or a day or whatever, I want to buy them for half price and I'll clean up for you. I'll do whatever for you, like whatever. Here's the situation I'm in. Dude was totally cool and gave me a 50% discount on all the pizzas. I then took those, and there was a list of target companies that were doing internet things. And I'm like, I'll try all of them. So I printed out my resume, I took it, and I just smashed it as deep as I could in the cheese. And I closed the lid, because that way somebody's going to open it. If they're hungry, they're going to literally have to pull out my resume and see it. And guess what? Somebody like pizza, a guy named Bill Peck, he called me up, sold the first internet ad banners, back in the day, just an icon in the industry. And Bill called me and said, he's like, bro, he's like, that was so funny. He's like, I get it. Thanks for standing out. He goes, I don't know if I have a job, but if I don't, I'm going to help you to find one. And it changed my life forever. And so from there, I went on to work on the ground floor of a series of companies that I was really fortunate became big media brands. So Sportsline became, today it's CBSSports.com, Zoom, XOOM. We built that to the 8th largest site on the internet, and that sold to NBC for $4.4 billion. And then I moved back to Southern California, and I helped relaunch FoxSports.com. That business had been shut down after the .com crash, and we kind of rebuilt that from the ground up with an awesome team, and that was really cool. And so I think, as I look back at all of that,
And
there's a
just
couple of
as
things.
we are just kind of getting
Yeah.
at the end of the episode, and I want to make sure we catch up to the present day. Maybe help us or jump us through kind of where did, or connect us the dot as to where things are at today or where you're at today.
Yeah, yeah. So, I would just say what I learned is, looking back, you have good days, you have bad days. You don't know which is which until sometime way down the line, because you don't know what you'll make of the experience. And then from there, I went on to start a company. It was acquired by Richard Branson's Virgin Group. I was fortunate to run that for that group for a couple of years. And then 5 years ago, I bumped into AI, and it was just really interesting. I was working on a project. I had a partner, and the partner kind of geeked out on data, and he had been following OpenAI since GPT-2, and he said, this is what we should do. And so I ended up converting what we were doing to an AI business, and we were very early in the space, and we ended up building that out. And so I've been working in AI for about the last 5 years. And today, I do a couple things. I speak all around the world about AI. I teach companies how to transform faster so they don't get left behind by AI. And we have an AI workforce training company, and that business helps companies to basically get AI fluent. And then we build tools and things like that for them as well.
Awesome. Well, sounds like it's been quite the journey, or some twists and turns and evolutions along the way, but certainly, hopefully, some fun as well. So, well, as we did kind of or catch up to the present day and of the journey, it's always a great time to transition to the two questions I always like to ask you towards the end of each episode. So we're going to jump to those now. So the first question I'm going to ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made? And what'd you learn from it?
The worst business decision I ever made was to move away from my network. So my ex-wife's, we had family move somewhere in California away from my center of influence and away from my network. And I moved to a place where they didn't do what I did. It was, and I thought I could be remote, and I thought I could do it remotely, and that just didn't work. The moment that you stop contributing value to your network, you get replaced.
Gotcha. No, and that's one where, sometimes I work almost entirely remotely, and I think sometimes or some environment structures and things work out. But to your point is if in the process you remove yourself or ability to add value or otherwise contribute, then it can be a detriment, no matter how enticing it might seem to not have to deal with the traffic or to have a short commute. So definitely a easy mistake to make, but a great one to learn from. Second question now that I'd like to ask is, so now if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one rule of thumb you'd recommend?
Focus on one thing. The biggest mistake that entrepreneurs make is they focus on too many things at once. And I call this hammers and nails syndrome. And what I mean is this, If I give you one hammer and one nail and your job's simple, all you have to do is take the hammer, bring it back, and just drive that nail into a piece of wood. You may miss the first, the second, the third time, but eventually I'm going to bet you'll nail it. Let's say I give you two hammers and two nails. You have a problem. Somebody has to hold the nails. Now think about it though. You have to bring both hammers back at the same time and strike at the same time. And think about how hard and awkward that is. You're going to miss first, second, third time. You may never get it right. Let's say I give you 10 hammers and 10 nails. You get the point. Biggest mistake that entrepreneurs make is they focus on too many things at once. So what I say is this: don't focus on everything, focus on one thing, really nail it, and then move on to the next. And how do you decide what's next? Ask your customers.
Gotcha. No, think great rule of thumb, great takeaway. So,
Yeah.
well, now as we do wrap up, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Sure. You can go to scottduffy.com and contact me through the website, email connect@scottduffy.com, or you can find me on social media at Scott Duffy Media across all platforms.
Awesome. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, support a great business, expand their network, and if nothing else, make a new best friend. So with that, thank you again for coming on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you that are listeners are out there, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, we'd love to have you. So just go to inventiveunicorn.com, apply to be on the show. Couple more things as listeners, make sure to click share, subscribe, leave us a review. Helps us to reach even more startups and small businesses to help them along their journey to success. And along that note, if along your journey you ever need help with patents or trademarks or anything else with your startup or your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we are always here to help. Well, thank you again, Scott, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you, Devin.
We'd plant, my friend. Dusty boots, but a heart of gold. Your story's waiting to be told. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small be shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Cowbell ring and feel the beat. Hustle hard, don't take a seat. Every step you're blazing trail. Inventive journey never fails.